The Tuesday, November 1st, 2016 meeting of the Plainfield Plan Commission is called to order. Please all rise for the pledge. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have a roll call, please.
Commissioner Menace.
Here.
Mr. Segerbrook. Commissioner Renzi.
Here.
Commissioner Heinen. Commissioner Green.
Here.
Commissioner Womack.
Here.
Chairman Kiefer.
Present.
Park District. School District. Fire District. Library District.
Thank you. In your packets in front of you, you have the minutes from our October 18th, 2016 meeting. Are there any amendments or corrections? Okay, hearing none, the minutes will be accepted as presented. At this time, we have set aside on the agenda public comments for anything that is not on our agenda this evening. So anybody in the audience tonight who would like to ask a question in front of the commission on any item that we are not going to have on our agenda are free to come forward at this time. I believe you two, wasn't it part of your extra credit that you had to ask a question? So we have a couple students from one of the local high schools. Okay, seeing none and no requests for public comments, we'll move to the development report. Is there one?
No report this evening since there were 5 Mondays in October. The village board had the night off last night.
Okay, thank you. We have no old business on our agenda, so we'll move into new business. Tonight we have one case, case number 1741-101416.MC, and this is a request for a major change to a planned development, and this is a public hearing. Do we have a staff report on this?
Yes, we do. Good evening, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. The request that we have before you tonight is a major change to a PUD to allow a liquor/convenience store in the property at 13717 South US Route 30. It is the more retail-oriented building located in the west side of the Plainfield Small Business Park fronting Route 30. The applicant is Dayfield Properties LLC, who's the building owner. And the current zoning of the property is I-1, Office, Research, and Light Industrial District, PUD. The comprehensive plan designates the area for light industrial/business park. The petitioner is seeking approval of an amendment to the PUD for the Plainfield Small Business Park to allow convenience stores and liquor stores as uses by right in the building at 13717 South Route 30. In 2003, a planned unit development agreement was passed allowing general retail uses in the front building of the Plainfield Small Business Park. In 2006, this PUD was amended to also allow restaurants and personal fitness studios, as well as outdoor seating as a special use. The petitioner is requesting an additional amendment to the PUD to allow a liquor convenience store user to operate in the building at 13717 South Route 30. The subject property is Lot 5 of the Plainfield Small Business Park subdivision. The lot is approximately 4.71 acres in size and includes a 46,000 square foot multi-tenant commercial building that includes mostly retail, restaurant, office, medical, fitness, and service uses. The adjacent land uses, zoning, and functional street classifications are identified below. To the north is vacant land zoned industrial I-1. And to the east is vacant land zoned industrial I-1. To the south is American Built Systems, which is an industrial business zoned I-1. And to the west is US Route 30, which is a major arterial with single-family homes zoned R1 backing up to the road. Under Section 950 of the Village's zoning ordinance, any major change to a planned development requires a public hearing in conformity with Section 939-38 of the Village's zoning ordinance. In recommending approval for major changes to a planned development, the Plan Commission must make 9 required findings of fact as follows. A, that the planned development fulfills the objectives of the comprehensive plan and the land use policies of the village and presents an innovative and creative approach to the development of land and living environments. Staff believes that allowing additional retail uses, including convenience and liquor stores, in the building fronting Route 30 while retaining industrial, office, and service uses for the balance of the development provides a creative approach to the development of this property and this area of the village, While this property and much of the surrounding area east of US 30 is mostly industrial in character, the Route 30 corridor and this building in particular have become increasingly desirable and more suitable for several types of retail establishments. While the comprehensive plan identifies the property as light industrial business park, the village has an economic development interest in fostering further retail development along the Route 30 corridor. The second required finding of fact is that the proposed land uses fulfill or can reasonably be expected to fulfill a need or demand for such uses within the village. There is increasing demand for certain types of retail stores and services along the Route 30 corridor, and allowing convenience and liquor stores as additional uses in the multi-tenant commercial building at 13717 South Route 30 helps to fulfill that demand. The third required finding of fact is that the physical design of the planned development efficiently utilizes the land, adequately provides for transportation and public facilities, and preserves natural features of the site, and that the property is suitable for the proposed purposes and land uses. The necessary findings for planned development approval were demonstrated with the original approval, and staff believes that the requested changes will not alter the original findings with respect to utilization of the land and provision of transportation and public facilities. The fourth required finding of fact is that any exceptions to bulk and density regulations of the underlying zoning shall be solely for the purpose of promoting an efficient and coordinated site plan, no less beneficial to the residents or occupants of such development, as well as the neighboring property, than would be obtained under the bulk and density regulations of this ordinance for buildings developed on separate zoning lots. The necessary findings for planned development approval were demonstrated with the original approval, and staff believes that the requested changes will not alter the original findings with respect to bulk and density regulations. The fifth finding is that the planned development meets the requirements and standards of the planned development regulations. Allowing additional uses, including convenience and liquor stores in the building at 13717 South Route 30 in the Plainfield Small Business Park, and the necessary approval process that is being conducted to allow those additional uses are in keeping with the requirements and standards of the planned development regulations. The sixth finding of fact is that open spaces and recreational facilities are provided. Staff believes that the necessary findings for planned development approval were demonstrated with the original approval, and that the requested changes will not alter the original findings with respect to open space requirements. The seventh finding is that the planned development is compatible with the adjacent properties and the neighborhood, and along the periphery of the planned development, yards or setbacks shall be provided that meet or exceed the regulations of the district in which the planned development is located. Staff believes that the addition of convenience and liquor stores as the permitted use in the building on the subject property is compatible with the existing retail, restaurant, service, office, and medical uses in the building, as well as with the light industrial and office uses in the balance of the industrial park. Allowing these additional uses helps to further diversify the mix of commercial businesses in the business park and provides an additional type of retail business to serve nearby neighborhood residents. With respect to yards and setbacks, staff believes the necessary findings for planned development were demonstrated with the original approval, and that the requested changes will not alter the original findings. The eighth finding is that the land uses permitted are necessary or desirable and are appropriate with respect to the primary purpose of the planned development. Staff believes that allowing convenience and liquor stores as additional uses are necessary and desirable to create a healthy mix of retail, service, restaurant, office, and medical uses that are necessary for the success of a multi-tenant commercial building at this location, and advances the purpose of the planned development. Finally, the land uses are not of such a nature or so located as to exercise a detrimental influence on the surrounding neighborhood. Staff believes that allowing convenience and liquor stores as additional uses in this building will be of great benefit to the village of Plainfield and adjacent properties, and will help to create a greater variety of businesses in the building and within the business park, creating more business activity in the area and providing nearby residents with additional types of local businesses to patronize. Staff does not believe the additional uses will be of detriment to the business park or to the surrounding neighborhood. Staff submits that the required findings of fact can be demonstrated to support a recommendation of approval for a major change to the planned unit development for the Plainfield Small Business Park, amending the agreement to allow convenience and liquor store uses by right in the building at 13717 South Route 30. In advance of any comments from the public hearing or input from the Plan Commission, staff recommends approval. Should the Plan Commission concur, the following motion is offered for your consideration in the staff report. And that concludes my staff report.
Thank you, Andrew. Is there anyone here representing the applicant this evening? Could I get you to approach that microphone over there? Swear you in.
And just for your information, this is the tenant who's looking to open a business here. The actual applicant is actually
It's not the
the
applicant,
property owner.
it's the person who wants to open the liquor store, is that?
Correct.
would that be okay? Well, I can swear you in. If there's anything you'd like to add, you're free to do that. So if you could raise your right hand, please. Do you swear that all testimony you're going to give this evening is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, sir.
Please state your name for the recording secretary.
I'm sorry?
Please state your name for the recording secretary.
Oh, Ankur Raja.
Okay, is there anything you'd like to add to the report? Or this?
Not really, actually, I'm just seeking for an approval from you guys so I can have a, small business, a small liquor store in that building, and I'm a local Plainfield resident.
Okay.
And just, that's it. I mean, I have nothing else to say, just that.
Well, thank you. And if you can just stay available, if we happen to have a question about the
Sure.
business in question, we can address that.
Should I stay here or?
You can sit there. If we have questions,
All right.
you can approach the microphone. Thank you. At this time, is there anybody in the audience or in the public that would like to ask a question regarding this case? Okay, hearing none?
I just do have to say that I did receive a phone call today from somebody who is looking to purchase the business Route 30 Food and Liquor, which is located at the intersection of 143rd Street and Route 30, just north of Fox's Pizza. And they had concerns about this being allowed just because of increased competition in the area. So.
Thank you, Andrew. At this time, we'll open up questioning to the commissioners. So you're free to ask questions or comment on this application.
Well, I guess since the proposed tenant is present, are you looking at more of a convenience store like a 7-Eleven, or are you looking to be more of a liquor store like
No,
Binny's?
it's going to be a packaged liquor store. So I'm gonna have some convenient item like chips and candies, but majorly liquor, wine and beer.
So Andrew, the definition of convenience store, can you explain exactly what that means?
In the Okay, so according to the zoning ordinance, it defines a convenience store as a retail store with a floor area of less than 4,000 square feet that sells a limited line of groceries, tobacco, periodicals, and other household goods. See also service station, automotive. And also there's some commentary. It says convenience stores are distinct from other retail uses because their operating characteristics, traffic generation, hours of operation, noise, and litter tend to be more intensive than many other retail uses.
But really,
So-
they're not, the application isn't so much for a convenience store as it is a liquor store. But I think when we approve this, either one of those would be able to go in there. Is that safe to say?
So I'm just trying to understand the history associated with this property. I guess, is it typical that, was this just straight zoning back in the day? And I noticed they did make an amendment back in 2006 to allow restaurants and personal fitness. But, is this unusual to request, not to have this type of use in regards to the original zoning? I'm just trying to figure out the history associated with this.
John may be able to add some additional commentary as well. I know he's been here a lot longer than I have. But I just in what I've gathered from researching the case and researching the Plainfield Small Business Park, it sounds like they went for a blanket PUD for that development to allow certain types of limited retail uses within the 13717 building, in addition to some limited industrial uses in that building as well, and limited industrial and office in the rest of the buildings as well. So I think they kind of wanted to limit what went in there, but as time has gone on, there's been interest from other users, and based on the limited uses that were allowed in the previous PUD, they've had to make various amendments. A couple amendments since then. So
I think though because I believe there used to be a bag factory on that property, and it was subject of a
That was
giant
little further
fire. And so they then built everything there. And what was originally envisioned was more industrial going in there.
Right.
But what was found
Gotcha.
was that it became more retail
Retail focused, yeah.
focused, and
That's the
it kept
business that came forward and.
it
wanted-
grew, and that's why it needed to be amended from time to time.
Gotcha. So
And
this isn't typical, it seems like, yeah, if this
on
was zoned
typical-
retail, then would this still be a special use for liquor?
No, yeah, so I think the commission's questioning is entirely on point. This was originally unsubdivided, so there are, as you can see, 9 buildings proposed, 3 have been constructed. And so the underlying zoning was I-1, it was the S&G factory, I believe. Building 9, even at the time of the original plan development approval, was anticipated to have somewhat more of a retail component to it. Thought potentially to be contractor supply, plumbing supply, things like that. But once the building was built and as the residential continued to grow on the west side of town,
Gotcha.
the demand was there for more of a B3 type of, and it might be appropriate at some point to rezone now that it is subdivided
Right.
and have this lot
Right.
be B3.
Was that discussed at all in regards to just rezoning this? So then.
Well,
that
in
way-
the prior plan development amendments that Mr. Bogdas referenced, they've added on a tenant by tenant basis. So as a music instruction came in, they would amend the plan development to add that type of use. As a fitness user came in, they
Yeah.
added the plan
And then
development.
the east
So-
side of the building has kind of a very different feel to it as well than what faces on
Yeah.
Route 30.
So,
Gotcha.
you know, we can have that discussion with the property owner, whether B3 would be the most appropriate zoning for this front lot now that it is subdivided.
So historically, there wasn't little to no opposition in regards to this type of use then?
No, in fact, I think the parking is sufficient. There has been some discussion about the access points, trying to enhance the access some, but staff feels that it's, you know, it's functioned without significant concern.
And it's primarily
Thank
to
you.
the south was the access point they keep talking about. There's the difficulty
yeah,
with
we're-
the owner of the property to the south of this, right?
Right, which is strictly industrial or manufacturing, so they have an interest in separating the vehicular, you know, passenger vehicles from their traffic.
Jonathan, that's a good point. I actually live in Harvest Glen there, and I come through Fescue Drive every day. It seems to me that the geometry of the intersection there is less than ideal because you have it offset, and offset in a bad way. If you can pull over to that intersection there, if you can zoom in, might help illustrate the point better. When was the last time that traffic analysis of the quality of service, level of service of that intersection was conducted, considering it has the problematic geometry?
I don't believe there's been a traffic study prior to the original development. So as an individual user comes in, that's does not rise to the threshold of requiring a traffic study for a 2,500 square foot tenant space or a 4,000 square foot tenant space.
But we're going to change what's there already. And, you know, as a traffic engineering professional, you know, who has my PhD in civil engineering specializing in transportation, I think that we really, and in light of all of the traffic on Route 30, I think with that offset geometry, I think we really should have the village, if not the applicant, because it might be an undue burden upon the applicant for the commercial place. But I think if we're changing the land use, we're going to have a lot more traffic there with, in my professional opinion, with a convenience store and with a liquor store. So I think we're already close to hitting some of those warrants, traffic warrants, that would require or would suggest that a good solution to traffic issues would be a traffic light there. Is it possible that we could potentially postpone or table this discussion on changing the land use until we could get a traffic study conducted? I mean, do we have the resources in the budget or in-house the personnel who could conduct such a traffic study at that very poorly designed intersection there?
Well, and you have to remember too that that's Route 30, so it falls under IDOT, and the whole idea of if the ultimate goal that you're suggesting is perhaps a traffic light, that's really gonna be determined by IDOT in almost every sense. And I know that just north of there, you have the McDonald's and then the light at 135. So I don't know. I think that's a pretty large request you're making. I don't know how staff feels about it.
Well, Jonathan,
Yeah.
do we have the resources?
Certainly. So to your questions, it's within the Plan Commission's purview to
Okay.
postpone making a recommendation on the case.
Because we
relative
would
to-
be changing the usage of the land, and even though we're not IDOT, they have control of the road, but we have control of the land uses, right? And so if we're gonna add to it, we would be impacting IDOT and that intersection by giving permission to change it, correct?
Right. So back to your question regarding the resources, Public Works does have a professional engineer who could provide an opinion, evaluate. We regularly conduct traffic counts. We have the physical equipment to take traffic counts at the intersection if that's determined to be of interest for the Plan Commission.
Oh, thank you very much.
Well, I guess Commissioner Green, to refute that a little bit, I mean, we're not really changing. I mean, this building has always been retail use. We're just adding the liquor component of it. Is the liquor component of it going to add a ton of traffic? Based on my experience, no. And based on my experience working with IDOT in regards to where the traffic signal is to the north, and just the level of use within this development, I would be very surprised if IDOT would allow that, and if the signal actually be warranted based on the use within this retail building. And I've done a lot larger retail developments than this, and IDOT's not warranted or not allowed it because it didn't meet warrant. So I would be surprised on that. I don't think that should be a concern. I don't think it's a concern. So, but it's up to this commission.
Is staff comfortable with the parking for this new use? I mean, I've seen a few other places where liquor stores have gone in kind of a repurposed building and traffic seemed to be insufficient. Is that a concern here with parking spots?
Speaking for myself, and I defer to Mr. Bogda as well as for his analysis, but I think the mix of uses is a combination of daytime uses, and the restaurants obviously would have a higher parking demand in the evening. So staff's comfortable, and again, noting that the overall development relative to trip generation, things of that nature, is approved for 9 buildings. We have only 3 built to date. Building number 3, Commission may recall, has housed a church up until just a few months back, which obviously would generate a certain amount of traffic on weekends, maybe not necessarily consistently throughout the week, but there have been additional uses. The site is approved for 6 more buildings to be constructed that would generate future traffic and would provide for additional parking opportunities as well.
And maybe that's the stipulation that we put. I mean, if all 6 of those buildings were built as a retail use, then I could understand your concern in regards to the amount of traffic that's coming through that intersection. I don't think it will be retail just because it's not close enough to Route 30. If they're industrial uses, the traffic, trip generation would be a lot less, I would assume. But maybe, maybe as this development gets developed out, maybe we have that as a stipulation that a traffic study needs to be prepared.
Other commissioners have comments?
I mean, I generally think that the shared parking for the building is sufficient to allow this use to be there. And I think when the building was originally designed, I assumed that it had met the requirements at the time.
Well, I think, though, the discussion about parking, especially ingress and egress, is good here. My recollection is we did have a similar lengthy conversation at the time that the church was looking to move into
Right.
the back.
Right.
And we were
and
concerned about.
Whether there was going to be police or whether we need a sign, and the traffic warrants at that time were discussed as well. And since we're using the new form, I'm figuring this is probably one of the items that would be highlighted to go to the village board as well. So if there's any further PUD amendments, or since it's been subdivided to go to B3 or whatever, hopefully we can get some insight from the village board as to where they see it going to.
Well, so I would, and just to echo that, I would certainly think if those other buildings are all built out, you are going to have to think about access to Route 30. So,
Yeah.
Okay. Other comments from commissioners regarding the application before us? Okay, hearing none, the chair would would entertain a motion.
That's fine. Oh, but I didn't give my score. I
Oh,
do,
you
I
wanna
do, I do,
switch.
I do think that B is a little bit dubious because there was, I think, one liquor store there and one liquor store by Aurelio's that closed. So I have it 9, 0, and 1 out of the 10 or whatever. But I will make the motion for the to adopt the finding of fact of staff as to the finding of fact of the planning commission, and furthermore recommend approval of major change to the plan unit development for the Plainfield Small Business Park, amending the agreement to allow convenience and liquor store uses by right in the building at 13717 South Route 30.
I second that.
Okay, a motion has been made and seconded. Can we get a vote by roll call, please?
Commissioner Menace,
Yes.
Commissioner Womack,
Yes.
Commissioner Green,
No.
Commissioner Heinen,
Yes.
Commissioner Renzi,
Yes.
Chairman Kiefer.
Yes. So this motion is approved, and it will go forward to the village board. If you want to follow where this goes next, it will be, a recommendation will go to the village board. This case will then be forwarded for their judgment and their action. Please keep in touch with staff. They'll let you know when it will be before the village board.
Sure, thank
Thank
you.
you for coming in this
Thank
evening. That is our only case this evening. Is there anything that any of the commissioners would like to bring up in open discussion? I'm not going to give a lot of time, so okay, there we go. So hearing none, I would like to remind you that the next village board meeting is November 7th, 7 p.m., and our next plan commission meeting will be November 15th. That's in 2 weeks, also at 7 p.m. in this room. Thank you for coming this evening, and we will adjourn at 7:27.